Good afternoon. Good to see all your people in the room. I'm Martin Stig Andersen from Denmark, composer and sound designer. And the past 5 years I've been busy with this game called Inside. Actually, I was so busy that 2 years ago I really wanted to go to DDC, but no way. I had to finish this game. 1 year ago I really wanted to go too, but I was too busy finishing up the game. But now I'm here. I'm still busy finishing up the game. But I needed to break this pattern. I have to remember to remind you to switch your cell phones off. And before I get started, I just want to mention the audio team, which has grown a bit since Limbo. We had Søskende Ryberg until a couple of years ago, and then we had Andreas joining us 2 years ago. And Jakob Schmidt is our audio programmer. He also did the sound for 140, and they're in the room too, so catch up with them as well. And also thanks to a couple of the game designers who helped with setting up all the logics in the game, making it possible to create the audio that I'm going to present to you. And also to Mikkel Svendsen, who helped me edit some video examples for this presentation. And he's actually doing a talk tomorrow at 5:30 on the visual programming. So if you're interested in that, you should definitely go. And there's a bit of an QA extension. I'm going to be demoing the Inside Wise project at the Audiokinetics booth Thursday and Friday. So if you have any question coming up while I present regarding the implementation side, you can just come and ask. So, wrapping up the presentation, recently I was kind of thinking that this whole presentation is about wrapping up the audio for a game, but it's kind of weird in a way because wrapping up is actually something that have to take place from the very beginning of the development. So this presentation regarding that is concerned with 3 topics, each of which interrelate with the others. One is death respawn, die and reincarnate, and that's when the game unloads and loads again. And how do we handle that situation sound-wise? Another is sound conducting in-game actions, and that can be like visual things, and we can trigger that by way of markers in the audio files, for example. And finally, audio-driven gameplay, which is when a game needs to look into the sound in order to determine the state of the game. And I think we all know the results of a deaf game, which can result in stumbling transitions between levels. And here I'm thinking mostly about like music game and rhythmic games that use loops, and then when they transition from one level to another, they often synchronize in accordance to the frame rate, and you get this kind of small rhythmical glitch. You have disruptive cuts to cutscenes in the middle of dialogues and all kind of odd moments, and distracting death respawn scenarios, which can be like every time you respawn, the same musical cue is playing over and over. And a piece of music that you started, that you initially liked, becomes really annoying, and it kind of just reminds you of that moment when you were stuck in the game. It can be just before a joke or something, so you hear the same joke over and over again. And you probably want some evidence, but I don't really like picking examples, except I chose to use Limbo as a bad example. When I presented Limbo 5 years ago here at GDC, I was careful not to die too much, as I felt that the disruption associated with it kind of compromised the overall experience. So while we developed Limbo, we had ideas on how to solve this problem, but we really didn't have time to do it. And again, it's really something that goes like deeply into the game tech, so it has to be done fairly early in the process. So the following example from Limbo, the hotel sign, features a musical cue that stops when you die and starts over when you respawn. And again, what happens is just that the game unloads. It says, I don't exist anymore, and then it starts again, and I can't remember anything, and it just plays the loops or the musical cue again. So that's kind of okay if you die like one time, but the 10th time it's going to be annoying. So just for the fun of it, we made a small video edit of the example, which kind of illustrates how I originally wanted it to sound. So in this example, even though you die, the music cue will play while the unload and load process takes place, and it will only play once, no matter how many times you die. And again, it looks like a simple thing to do, but it isn't really. But designing for must-haves for Playdate's next game, Inside, it was obvious to include a system that could handle death respawn in an aesthetically satisfying way. And also it was obvious that such a system needed to be developed from early on. And at the core, the solution was to let the audio engine run continuously from entering to exiting the game. And in this way, the audio wouldn't be affected unless we specified otherwise. And the potential downside of that is that we had to handle all sounds in the game, which requires a lot of overview and work. Like with dynamic objects, with start and stop events, that can be really difficult to keep track of. So for that reason, we decided to divide the sounds into two main categories, namely one for the sounds that we want to restart when you respawn, and the ones that we want to just let play across death respawn. And as you can see, set up in wise, just stop all except ambience, music, and those kind of sounds. And the mixed states also run across death respawn, and as you can see on the left side, I've set up a lot of generic mixed states that I can choose from, which I can choose, like when the boy dies, I can fade out over 3 seconds and fade quickly in, and there's some called prepare spawn, which is when the game fades to black, and I can fade out over whatever second and fade in again. And to handle the death respawn process, we receive the following events from the game. Like when the boy dies, we get a death event. We also get a death with a a save point specific post fix. So if I want to do like a mix state for a specific save point, I can do that. And then when the game fades to black, we get the event called prepare spawn. And then when the game starts load, then we kind of pause the event execution. That's the one that's marked in yellow. Jakob, the audio programmer, have a nice image of that, which would be like in the theater, that the curtains goes on and then everything gets set. And then at the very bottom there, you can see we resume the event execution, and all the events that have to be executed at load will be done like at the same point in time. And we also have specific events for chapter loads, which allow us to differentiate between loading a save point and respawning at a save point. So for example, in the hotel sign example, Limber, I showed before, I could choose to, like when you load the game, if you exited the game and went to the menu and loaded the save point again, then you could hear the musical cue once again, which would make sense. Like if you hadn't played the games for a couple of days or whatever, and you went back, it would make sense to have this musical cue playing once again. So basically that's some of the issue we've been dealing with, and I just want to play an example where you hear a rhythmic loop that plays across death respawn, and there's also some kind of abstract sound associated with the light of sentry guns, which are affected by mix states according to two different save points. So we actually have like different mix states for different save points. And just so you can orient yourself, I'll just play the sound of the sentry light. And as you can see, there's two save points up there called Stealthy Room 1 and 2. And in the first save point, when you respawn, the lights are off. So therefore I fade the sound completely out. But in the second save point, the light is still on. So I only turn down the volume by 6 dB just to soften it a bit. And again, this is something that nobody will ever notice, but I guess that's what's it all about, that we don't get annoyed by bad mixing and the game revealing itself as a game. So playing the example, you should notice this rhythm that just plays across death respawn, and again how the sentry light mixes differently according to the two different save points. And this is just a small section, a small slice of this section. The underlying pulse is actually playing straight for 15 minutes, I think, and totally unaffected by the death respawn. So you can see the Death Respawn doesn't really interrupt the gameplay experience. But while this can actually work without sending information from the audio back to the game, that's not true when considering gameplay, when gameplay and music are synchronized. And I'll just show you an example of that. Again, I could list a bunch of games that kind of fail in that, but again, I'll be using Limbo as a bad example. Towards the end of Limbo, gravity timer goes haywire, and which causes the gravity to shift every 4 seconds. And the resulting rhythmic pattern has been described by YouTube in this way. Ideally, this pattern should have played continuously across Death Respawn, which would allow the player to stay in the loop. Actually, the pulse is really important for being able to solve the puzzle. But what actually happens in the game is something like this. That looks a bit like this. So again, every time die, the game says, I don't exist. And then it just drops back to 0 again. Again, that really takes the player out of so to speak. And this, is there something wrong with the microphone? Okay. And this little video kind of illustrates how the sound responds to this gravity timer. It's like a timer going from 0 to 4 seconds. And in that way you could call it driven music, which is also very nice actually. I remember when I had to do the soundtrack for iTunes, and so I actually had to play the game in order to capture the music. So yeah, that's nice too, but in a way it has to go both ways. And now I'm pretending I'm dying. And although I kind of mixed the Death Respawn transition carefully, it still really disturbs the flow of the game experience, which I'll just show you now. You get the point. So every time you die, it just kind of breaks the rhythm and starts randomly, which actually makes the game more difficult to play. So ideally, it should have looked like this. Even though that I die and respawn arbitrarily in arbitrary points in time, the rhythm should just continue and keep the player in the loop. So I had a bit of help in order to create a video which again kind of demonstrate how I originally envisioned it to sound. And that was actually not a trivial task, because I had to record the game only with the rhythm and then record different attempts with the sound effects, and then we had to align them together. And I'll just play you how that sounds, and then I'll play the example a bit longer because I actually enjoy that you can just die as many times as you want, but it still sounds nice. It's kind of sad that the game doesn't sound like that. But in addition to that, I would consider actually at the moment of respawn the direction of the gravity, because you could respawn at a point where you wouldn't have enough time to react, but you could also respawn at a point in time where you had to wait too long. So you can actually see in the example I made here, which is how I would have done it, that you can see respawn happens relatively early. So you can see the phase of the gravity on the left side. You can see the gravity down actually follows another phase of gravity down, and that's because the early respawn makes it possible to actually take action at the moment at respawn. Whereas if respawn happens relatively late in the loop, you wouldn't have time to take action. So if the gravity was down in that example, that would mean that you would have to wait for the gravity to go up and go down again. So in that case, it would be preferable to have the gravity up at the moment at respawn. And that would be a decision that had to be made at the moment of respawn, how we want the gravity to be. So if we were to do that, that could be interesting to do, but it would require a lot of work. I know that from working with Insight. We'll be faced with 3 challenges. First of all, as the information isn't updated during unload and load, we'll have to bake the loop. We have to bake the rhythm into a loop. And as we are respawning at an arbitrary point in time, we have to make the game look at the position in the sound at the time of respawn, and the game would have to orient itself actually according to that. And you can say this is the essence of audio-driven gameplay, that it's needed for the game to look into the sound. And I think the most difficult part is that gameplay is brought from game time into musical time. So that means that the game mechanic of the gravity shifting up and down suddenly becomes 4 real-time seconds. Before it was 4 game time seconds, and 4 game time seconds isn't necessarily the same as 4 real-time seconds, because it's dependent on the frame rate. So if suddenly the frame rate drops, then maybe 4 seconds become 5 seconds, and if you have to go from point A to point B in 4 seconds, then you won't be able to make it. You probably won't be able to solve the puzzle then. But as I said, we have been dealing with those issues in the Insight, and I'm going to play an example from that with a rhythm that continues continuously across this respawn while actually conducting the gameplay. And in the puzzle, in order for the boy to survive, he has to follow some odd people who are marching. And that's in the left side of the loop. You have the loop from the green cursor to the red cursor in the top. And in the first part of the loop, the boy has to march, to walk. And in the second part, he has to stand still. And if he does the opposite, like if he stands still in the first part, he get killed. And if he moves in the second part, he gets killed too. I'll just play how it sounds. And you can actually see in the lower left corner is actually the sound of the footsteps of the characters in the game. So that's kind of interesting that you have integrated the sound of footsteps in the music, because it's actually the music that decides when those characters are about to walk. So this just loops back. So we have to make sure that the ball doesn't respawn in the first part of the loop, because that would be really cruel. Like if he respawned there and you wouldn't even notice that you respawned before you got killed. So that wouldn't be a good idea. So if he, I think if he dies in the first part of the loop, there's a big chance that he will actually respawn before the loop starts over. But if he dies in the second part of the loop, there's a major risk that he will spawn in the first part of the loop, thereby instantly being killed. So in order to deal with that, we are enqueuing a 2-bar loop that will play. I'll just play how it sounds. So that queue, that loop, we are enqueuing as soon as the game fades to black. And if respawn happens like half a second before the red cursor there, then this segment will play. I'll just show you in a bit. And the half-second delay kind of ensures that the boy doesn't respawn right at the beat. So to sum up this example, the prepare spawn event enqueues a 2-bar death segment, and the spawn event enqueues the main segment. And this often happens while the main segment is playing back, in which case the death segment is ignored. And the half-second delay of the spawn event gives the player time to realize that he respawned before he's required to move. So in the example, I'll just survive 2 times in order to give you a feel for the loop. And then I'll die in the first part in order to respawn before the loop starts over. And then I'll die in the second part in order to provoke the playback of the death segment. And after that, I'll just alternate between surviving, dying in the first part, and dying in the second part. So now I'll die in the first part. So respawn happens before the loop starts over. And now I'll die the second time, which provokes the 2-bar death segment. And I'll die in the first part. So respawn happens before the loops finished, so you have time to react. And then I'll die in the second part of the loop. now it won't respawn before the loop plays over, so we have this 2 bar segment playing there. Yeah, so basically that allows us to have this pulse going on across death respawn. But again, it requires that it's the audio that conducts the gameplay. So I'm moving on to the last example, which is a rather long example. And I'll briefly introduce the category of sound conducting in-game actions, and that would be an idea of having a marker in the sound that can trigger an action in the game. So in the beginning of the example, you'll see some kind of flashing light in the background, which is a visual warning for a shockwave to initiate. And as you can see, there's a marker in the top right called flash, and when I put that one in, the game will trigger a kind of a light. I'll just play with the sound here. And we'll see how it looks in game. Again, a simple example, but it kind of shows that you can play random loops and have random points in time where you can trigger things in the game. And I think combined with the handling of death and respawn and the audio-driven gameplay, we reach a high level of audiovisual synergy. And I think in the end, it almost feels like the game experience resembles that of being inside a music video almost. And again, I want to play a longer example in order to demonstrate that. And the section, as you saw, is about a shockwave that's initiated every 6 seconds, and the boy needs to be in cover, and otherwise he's kind of blown into small pieces. And the following examples illustrates the potential game-breaking issue inherent in anchoring gameplay in music time or real time while the game is still executed in the frame rate dependent game time. So at the slide you see a debug view, and the green bars illustrates the solution of the puzzle. It kind of illustrates where you can see there's a cover which is rotating, and the green bars, when they are in a horizontal position, that's where we want the cover to be. The yellow bar illustrates the target position of the cover, and both the green bar and the yellow bar, they are entirely hooked on music time. So even though I slow down the speed of the game, which I'll do in a second, those will continue rotating at the same time. The point is that even though I slow down the game, the music continues, and the shockwave is initiated by the music. And the yellow bar, the boy can change the phase of the yellow bar by the switch. And I'll just and if the yellow bar gets kind of close to the green bars, it will snap to the green bars because that's the solution. So in that way we are helping the player a bit. And then after that, the cover behind it will align to it gradually. So again, the bars, the green bar and the yellow bar, they're entirely hooked on music time, whereas the rotator is in fact synchronized with game time. But every time they get out of sync, it will gradually try to align with the yellow bar. And in the example I'll play back now, I'm actually slowing down the game a lot, which makes the game unplayable. And you'll actually see that the cover will jump from one position to another, and that's one thing that I hope you'll never see in the game. I don't. I'll just play back the example. But again, the point with the cover jumping is that even though that you were playing the game on a totally crappy PC and something went entirely wrong, you would still be able to solve the puzzle. So again, you can see the bars, they correspond to music time. So you can see I'll be running in a second and slowing down the time, you can see. And it starts to jump because it needs to follow. Now do it like less, more moderately, and you can see that it kind of aligns gradually. I'll do it again there. Then again I can change the phase of the yellow bar because I want to align it with the green ones, which you can see is the solution. This is what it looks like when the cover is not in the right spot. You see now I'm respawning at an arbitrary point in time, and of course the game has to look where the sound is, because if it would just like put the yellow bar at a random position, then maybe the puzzle would be solved. Now you can see that the yellow bar snaps to the green one if I get close enough. I'll just do it once more. So if I get close enough, the game will help. You can see it gradually aligns, the cover gradually aligns with it. So as you figured, the boy was about to survive, get in cover. And as in many other places inside, I want to underscore this kind of progressions sound-wise. And in this example, I wanted to change the entire sound world, both the music and the ambiences. But as you can see, I really get the information in the wrong order, because the loop starts over, which is what triggers the shockwave. And then I know if the boy will die or survive. But that's kind of too late, because I want to know when the shockwave is initiated. I want to know if the boy dies or survives, because according to that, I want to choose which sound to play. So in other words, we'll have to determine the state of the boy prior to the shockwave initiation. So that means that we want a death or survive event, and then the loop starts over, and then we trigger the shockwave. And the way we are doing that is by checking, I think, like 50 milliseconds before the loop starts over. It's a bit hard to see the loop point, which is just below the marker in the upper right corner, which is called mine pre-blow. I think it's just like the vertical line just after that is the loop point. So we are checking like 50 milliseconds before the loop point, or before the shockwave initiation, we are checking the state of the boy. So if the boy is in cover at that point, the game decides that the boy will survive, and he will actually survive, although he might get out of cover when the blast is happening. But we need to stick to that decision, otherwise we will have like one thing happening in the game and the audio showing something different. So let's hear how it sounds when he survives. Then, as you could see, the cover was in the right position on the right side as well. But it's nice to have the musical change already on the left side, so you actually have the musical change when the puzzle is solved, like logically, not necessarily when you have left the puzzle. So it's a kind of way of underlying that you did it right. Another thing I want to talk about before playing back the entire example is, I think at some point the director and I thought that this kind of high intensity of the shock waves got a bit innovating, and there's even a climax coming up later on. So we wanted to get the mood a bit down, or to dim the shock waves. And one idea was to in the level to have the boy going inside a building, which allowed us to push the shock wave in the back. I think that's an important point as well in creating this. That it's not only about tech; it's also about both the sound and the gameplay and the visuals, everything to be flexible in order to play together almost as a band. So I think the entire sections ends up being something that's really well composed, but it's not only because of the game or because of the music, it's because of the way that they work together. And the section kind of culminates in an elevator crash. At some point it hits the water. And during the development, there was, I think, like randomly the elevator hit the water right on the shock wave, right on the beat. It was pretty cool, so we wanted to make sure that always happened. So I had the designers to make it possible for the elevator to look into the sound and check how because it's the boy who activates the elevator, and he can do that at any point in the 6-second loop. And in the end, we want the elevator to crash right on the beat. So the speed of the elevator is actually adjusted in order to hit the water right on the beat. And I'll now play the entire section, and I think it's important to play a longer stretch of the game, because I think that's what it's all about. It's about the overall flow of the game experience. And in the example, I'll die as many times as a regular game tester. So unlike when I played Limbo here 5 years ago, I now really enjoy dying because it sounds good. So you know how the shockwave plays continuously throughout the entire example, unaffected by death and respawn and game mechanics. And I think that's only possible because we made a game that listens. Thank you. I think we have only 5 minutes for questions. So if anyone have any questions, let me know.
Well, thank you very much for the talk.
Thanks.
It was very inspiring. I was curious about how you actually communicated information from Wwise back into the game engine. Those were the markers in the timeline?
Initially it was the markers, at least during the development, but in the end it was replaced by reading into the timeline. I don't know exactly how that works. You'll have to ask the programmer about that. But at least for prototyping and development, it was really convenient just to use the markers in Wwise.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Martin. That was excellent. A lot of us have spent a lot of time in recent years, I guess, trying to simplify the burden on the coders by doing more work in our tools. So we're using our parameters and everything like that so that the modern tools allow us to do a lot of the heavy work within Wwise or Fmod or Fabric, so that there's not a lot of intensive code stuff to control what's going on from the audio. You seem to be moving back in the other direction a little bit by setting these things up and expecting the game now to be paying more attention to what's going on in the audio. So obviously that would require more code support. So I'm actually curious about the process of you obviously wanting to make the improvements from Limbo to this game, and the conversation you had to have with the entire team of basically saying, hey, we want to spend more time focusing on audio. We want to make the audio great, but that means we're going to have more programmer time. We're going to have more commitment towards the audio. Did you find that was something that instantly they just said yes, or was it a fight to try and say, hey, this is going to be really good, can we have more programmer time?
I think it was something that we discussed already on Limbo, but at that time we didn't have time at all to realize it. No, but I don't think I met a lot of resistance there. There was a bit, though, regarding this kind of position between music time and game time, which is a bit tricky, and it's kind of tough if it can be something that can actually break the game, if you see what I mean. So I think that was the only kind of point where I met a bit of resistance. But otherwise, people want the game to sound great, so I think people have been positive about it. But it's true, it requires a lot of programming time. But in the end, I think this shouldn't be something that's kind of unique for Inside. I think it's maybe something that's kind of missing, like generally in games.
It shouldn't be, but I think you'll find, I know there's probably a lot of people here who would have that conversation would be really difficult. With a lot of developers still, is it worth the time? So it's fantastic you've got a team that's supportive of that, and it's good that you didn't have to fight for that too hard. Thanks.
Hi, fantastic talk. I was wondering, so listening to the difference between the continuous audio as opposed to the restarting on respawn, it kind of gave me the feeling that you're still kind of participating in the same world and timeline that you just left, as opposed to when it restarted, it kind of felt like the previous death was more like didn't actually happen. Was this something that you had planned for, this kind of effect on the player from the beginning designing this? And if so, how did you reach what you reached now?
So you mean that the idea of respawning in one setting and nothing has really changed? That's what you mean?
Yeah, because now with the continuous music, it sounds like the setting is still moving while you're dead, as opposed to it just restarts.
Yeah, because that's a good question. Because what does it actually mean when you respawn? Are you going? Sometimes it means that you lose progression and you go back in time, like back in game time. But I think at other points where it's just about like keeping the pace, that's not really relevant. It's like the time just continues in a way. So I think that in some moments it's one, and other moments it's the other. But I often miss, the kind of experience of just being in a game and not worrying too much about progression or anything. Like in this example, you die a lot there, so yeah, it doesn't make. There's no point in saying that, oh, you died and respawn and now you're going back in progress. I think your time's up.
Thank you.
But I can go to I'll go to the wrap-up room, and I'll bring Jakob Schmidt, the audio programmer, if you have any questions for us. So thank you.